In today's video, we're going to be painting up a Lannister guard captain from the Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game. Okay, so what we'll be doing with the Lannister guard captain is we're going to be starting off with some vampire red. Now I have already primed this miniature. I've just primed it with some simple white primer here. And now what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be painting up the main parts of our Lannister guard captain here. So we're going to be painting the bottom of the skirt. Now he has a breastplate on, so we're going to avoid that. So we're going to be just pretty much concentrating on the bottom here, and just a little bit he has exposed clothing on his armor, and that just underneath his shoulder pads, or shoulder plates, I guess. We're going to be doing those as well, but just really making sure we get a good coverage on here. Now it is red, and it does take a few coats with red paint to really get that deep red that we want out of the vampire red color. So make sure that what you do is you cover over the first coat like we're doing here, just roughly, wait for it to dry, and come in with a second coat just a little bit later on, and it'll really start deepening that red up. And with the vampire red, you may need to do 3 coats. I think I ended up by doing 3 coats on this miniature, so it's just waiting for it to dry, coming in with another coat to just finish it off. Okay, so now we have all that red completed. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to be coming in with some Barbarian Flesh. And we're going to be using the Barbarian Flesh, of course, to be painting up the flesh of a miniature. Now, for this Lannister guard captain, we're only going to be painting up the face on here with the Barbarian Flesh, because we're not going to worry about the hands, because we're going to be putting him in some gloves. So just the face here, and just a little bit underneath here, we can see a little bit of his neck, and just a tiny bit of hair popping out. So we want to just get those little bits as well. I also forgot to mention that you want to paint the inside of the shield the red vampire color that we just did before. Okay, so now we have his flesh painted up. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to be coming in with a necromancer cloak, and we're going to be using necromancer cloak to be painting up our guard captain's boots here, as well as the pants. Now you may want to do the pants in a slightly different color, maybe a brown, or even a slightly different color of red. But for me, I'm just going to go with necromancer cloak for the whole lot. I want a nice even sort of tone, and since we're going for a little bit of a speed paint on here, I want to give them some nice dark pants on there as well, without it being black. I think black would just be too much, and the necromancer cloak is a good in-between, so I'm just doing both of them in the necromancer cloak colors. And also, while we're on the necromancer cloak, we also want to get just his glove here on our Lannister guard captain, so don't forget to do the little gloves on there as well. Okay, now that we have those parts painted up and dry, what we're going to be doing is we're going to come in now with some oak brown. And we're going to be using oak brown to be painting the inside of our Lannister guard captain's shield here. Now it's a little bit hard to get on camera here as I'm trying to focus. It's a very tight, narrow gap that I've got to be painting in here. But remember, this color as well, for me, I don't know about for you, but for me, I'm having a little bit of trouble getting a nice even coat. So what I'm going to be doing is just painting over the first coat, waiting for it to dry, and coming in with a second coat, so I've got a nice smooth color over there rather than having the streaky brown that I've got on there. But at the moment we're just painting on our quick base layer here. Okay, so now that we have the inside of our shield complete, we're going to come in now with oak brown again, and what we're going to be doing with that is we're going to be doing all of our straps on our miniature. So the straps that he has here on his back holding up his breastplate, and his scabbard for holding his sword as well. We want to get all of those. Now these are super fine details here, so what we want to do is, if you need to, come in with a finer tip brush and just get in there and try and avoid getting over any areas that were painted, since a lot of these straps are so close together. So that's why you can see me here applying it with quite a light touch on there. So I'm just making sure that I've got control of the tip of the brush when I'm trying to get all those little straps. But remember, if you do happen to go over the edge, don't worry about it too much. Just wait for the paint to dry, and then just top it back up from where it is needed. Okay, so now we have all the straps painted on the miniature. We're going to come in now with some gunmetal. I'm going to be using gunmetal to be doing all of our armor pieces as well as our sword blade here. So our armor pieces is our chest plate. We want to make sure that we've got a nice good coverage over that, and it's only on the front because we've got all those straps on the back. We also want to do those shoulder pieces, and we're just going to be also just doing the top part of the visor that our guard captain here can fold down to protect his face. We just want to do the top part. We're going to be also just doing this little bit here on the end of the feather, which is holding it to the helmet. We're not going to be doing the whole helmet. We're just going to be doing those little bits of edges there, because we're going to come in just after this and do a different color to the helmet than just doing it straight gunmetal color. So just make sure we get all those areas that I was talking about with the gunmetal, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we have all the metal painted up and it's all dry, so we can move on to our next step. So like I was saying before, we were avoiding doing the whole helmet in metal because I want to separate the guard captain out from an ordinary troop that we have on the battlefield. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be giving him a nice painted red helmet. So again, just coming back with our vampire red that we were using before with the rest of our clothing to tie it in together. And I'm just being careful now to avoid getting it over any of the areas that we've done in the metallic colors. Okay, so now that we have our helmet completed, what we're going to be doing now is I'm going to be coming in with greedy gold. I'm going to be using greedy gold to be painting quite a lot of the areas on the miniature here. So we're going to be doing the outside of the shield, we're going to be doing the handle and pommel of our sword, and we're also going to be doing some the details on the miniature itself with his lion symbol. We want to make sure we get that, and for that I'm just really lightly applying it over the area, sort of in like a dry brush fashion to get that on there. Now it is going to take a couple of layers since I'm applying it so light, but I don't want to get any of that gold anywhere else, so it's just the safest way that I've found to try and get as much as I can without having to repaint areas in high detail like that. And of course we want to do the parts of the scabbard there to really make it stand out because they're Lannisters with all their gold, so we want to make sure we really emphasize all of that. So just making sure we get a good chunk of areas with all these golds, and you can see that it's really bringing it out quite nicely as well. Okay, so now that we've added on those big areas of gold, what we're going to be doing now is going to be coming in and doing some really small, fine details with the gold here. So we're going to be doing it on the trim of his clothing here, and you can see I'm just doing it the same way that I did it with his lion symbol on his shield and on his chest, which is just giving it this dry brush motion. Now it is going to be quite difficult, and I have come in with a lot finer brush so I don't have as much room to accidentally overspill. And we're also going to be putting some here on his shoulder armor as well to really make all that pop, because he's a guard captain. We want to really pop him out. So I'm also going to be doing some around the edges of his helmet that we have here, just on the top visor part, as well as on the actual helmet itself. So you can see here that it's quite difficult. I'm just trying to keep a really steady hand, and I'm more catching up with the side of my paintbrush than I am with the full bit of the full part of the paintbrush. So if I make any mistakes, I can come back in with a tip to just try clean it up a little bit. You can see here, so there's a lot of fine detail work we're doing all over here, but just remember to take your time, be as steady as you can, and if you need to, just wait for it to dry and come back and touch it up. And I know I am going to be coming back and touching it up quite often with these bits, since I'm doing such fine detail on it as well. Okay, so now that I have all that detail work all touched up and dried, what we're going to do now is going to come in with some flesh wash, and we're going to be painting our guard captain's flesh, which is only the face, so this is just a nice quick easy step here, and trying to avoid getting it anywhere that we haven't got the flesh on there. So you can see it's just very fine tips in there, so just coming in with a small brush to coat over the wash, just trying to avoid all those other areas. Okay, so once our flesh wash is dry, what we're going to do now is we're going to come in with some strong tone, and we're going to be using strong tone to be covering over all of the areas of our miniature that aren't metallic, except for the helmet of our guard captain. We're going to be leaving that alone as well. We're going to be doing that the same color as our metal wash that we're going to be doing in the next step. So just coming here, getting all the clothing, the straps, his boots, everywhere like that. We just want to make sure we get a nice good covering of the strong tone, and just avoiding it pooling up. We're just going for darkening down the colors and really tying them together. We're not We're not going to go with a dirty wash over them like I have been with our previous miniature painting with our Mountains Men, because the Lannisters, I think, have a more nicer looking appeal. So we want to try and avoid a lot of that mucky look on there. So now with our strong tone wash complete, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be moving on now with some nuln oil for our metallics. And you know me, I like having my metallics covered in nuln oil because I just love the effect it gives off with that. So just coming over here with the shield and all of our metallic areas, including the helmet as well that we painted over in the red, we're all going to be just giving them a nice coat with the nuln oil on there. And you can see that just by avoiding the pooling that we had in the last step, the Lannister has a more clean look about his wash rather than our Mountains Men that we had before. So it's just a bit of difference there. Some I like to give a real messy, gritty look, and others I like to keep nice and clean. So with the Lannisters, we're trying to really avoid that pooling on the washes here. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing some more finishing touches on our miniature here. But by all means, if you want to finish it right here, you can be done. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be coming back with our original colors here. So for our metals, we're just going with our gun metal here, and we're just grabbing just a little bit on the edge and just getting it with the tip of our brush to give it that little bit like it has a shine on there. So just really trying to emphasize those areas. So I'm going to be also just doing it on the sword and stuff there, just to give all these high points a nice shine. And we're also going to be doing the same thing with the gold on our miniature here. So we've got quite a lot of gold on here, but we're just going to be picking out some really high points and some nice visual spot points. So we want to go to areas like our nice line that we have on our shield, and just hitting the tips of those shields. We're not covering it over everywhere. It's just all the really high points. Now with the greedy gold, what I've done is I've just mixed in a little bit of silver paint in there to brighten it up just a little bit. Now it's only a very small touch. I wouldn't even say it's 50-50. It's probably 1 drop of silver paint to 3-4 drops of gold paint, to just give it that slightly lighter tint to it. Okay, so now we have all the highlights on our miniature completed. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to come in with some black from Vallejo, and we're going to be using that to just be painting up the base, just being careful to avoid the feet as we go along, and just giving it a nice good coat on there so it's nice and covered, and we're really trying to avoid getting all that white shining through, which is going to be pretty easy with the black anyway, but it's just going to be a nice finishing touch on our miniature here. And with that, we have finished painting up our Lannister Guard Captain from the Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game. And you can see that this miniature has a lot of detail on it that we've gone through there, but just taking in those extra steps to highlight those certain areas, like the piece of the armor and the little bits on the clothes, has really added in that a lot of extra visual interest onto the piece. And by making it stand out, it's going to really stand out on your army tray in there and really stand out from the Lannister guards that we've painted up before. So I think this is a good compromise with just adding in a few colors like the red helmet and stuff like that. But I think that's where we're going to leave it, guys, and I hope this video has been interesting for you to watch, whether you want to follow along or you just enjoy watching people paint up miniatures. But with that, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys later.